Rooster, too lazy to crow today. I'm a little Red Rooster, too lazy to crow today. Get no peace in that barnyard, people, since that little Red Rooster's on the prowl, talking in the barnyard. And then meal hound dogs, they begin to howl, honking in the barnyard. And then meal hound dogs, they begin to howl. Get no peace in the barnyard, people, since that little Red Rooster's on the prowl. All right.
What does Jim mean to the Dalton community? I guess in all his years, consistency, dedication, humor. He's quite a humorous person. Jim was very young when we first hired him, and he had a lot of learning about teaching, and he seemed to enjoy physical education. You know, he was athletic, so I think that's what drew him to this occupation. And he really wanted to work with children. Jim has black and blue ×2, which is a warm-up that he uses. It requires the children to do a variety of motor skills. And there are days when he does 5 × 1, let's get it done, a little faster. You know, the children go only 1 time, and 5 down and back the full gym, doing different motor skills. That's Jim. He has competed in the Ironman competitions forever, as far as I know. He wrote 2 books, and he does the swimming, he does the bike riding. I mean, in the morning when he comes early, he's always, you know, out jogging or riding his bike or working out. I mean, that is part of who Jim is. When he came out with his book, he wanted to help them and inform them about, you know, how to keep your body healthy, you know, motivate them to not necessarily be Ironman competitions, but to try to, you know, do something healthy, you know, lifetime activities. What would I like Jim to know on behalf of the Dalton community? That they're glad that he's here. He has been a dedicated coach. He has probably coached most of the middle school teams' sports that are here, with the exception of probably volleyball, and that might be it. He's coached soccer, track and field, swim, baseball, basketball, you name it.
If you had to put, like, you don't necessarily have to use this is just for my personal input. If you had to guess how many kids he's coached over 30 years, what do you think that number is?
Oh my goodness. Well, you've got to understand, some of them are the same children, so I'd say, probably 30 different students over a course of a year. So times it by his 30 years, so that's what, 900? It's got to be higher than that, but.
Can you say that can you put that in like a little sentence, please?
He's probably coached at least 900 different students over the 30 years that he's been at Dalton, and it's probably more than that. He has a sense of humor that can be interesting. No, but it's fun to work with Jim. Jim is someone who I think I could talk to about anything.
I think, I was trying to think of one word specifically. I would say Jim has a ton of spirit. And I think he wears his heart on his sleeve, but he has a ton of spirit for Dalton. If someone were to meet Jim for the first time, I think they would quickly learn that he's a very passionate person, that he's caring, and I would say another word in some stuff that he does, but that he's an Ironman. He's passionate about his own physical conditioning and running, but in many ways he's sort of an Ironman adult.
Yeah.
He's still very passionate. He's still, the relationships he has, I think any student or any team that he's on would say that Coach Armata really cares about them. And that just comes out from when he was coaching high school to middle school. So I think the style stayed the same. I just think, that was one of my words, and that he's passionate about teaching and coaching, and he cares a lot about it. Coach Armata is a character. He'll coach it the same way, whether it's middle school or high school. I think the middle school kids, when they experience, they know him as a middle school phys ed teacher in the younger grades, or from 3rd grade all the way through. But the 7th grade is the first year they're going to get him as a coach. I wouldn't say they're shocked. I think they're just, I think they appreciate how committed and caring he is about it. From coaching swimming to track, cross country, hence the Ironman.
Absolutely. Yeah.
There is a tradition that I don't remember as a student. Jim loves his music, so he has brought music into his classes and to his teams, and you may have heard this before, but he is, I don't know if he's a self-trained harmonica player, but he has become pretty good at it. So the tradition has become that he does play the harmonica every now and then with the team on the bus trips. And if you're a first-year student or first-year athlete on that team, you might be shocked by hearing the harmonica. If there's singing going on, the harmonica will be there too. So one of the traditions that Jim has brought into his teaching is music, and I think it wouldn't be unusual for Jim to, if music was going on, singing on the bus, that Jim would break out his harmonica. I'm not skilled in the harmonica, but I have a daughter who's in 6th grade, and she said Coach Armata would often, Coach Armata would break out his harmonica. This is a tribute to you, Jim. This is the best I can do. I'm not talented enough, but I just think, congrats, Jim.
Amazing.
He really is happy teaching. He's happy, he loves his family, he loves teaching, and he loves being at Dalton. So when I think of Jim is happy being a physical education teacher and coach at Dalton.
Roy Samuelsen, I taught at Dalton for 40 years and coached football, wrestling, baseball, softball, taught physical education for all 40 years.
Wow, that's a very, very impressive.
And now retired. I've known Jim since he started. He started in 1988 as my assistant football coach and became a physical education teacher. So I've worked with Jim for over 25 years. I would describe, the way I would describe Jim Armata to someone who hasn't met him is, first and foremost, he's a caring, hardworking physical education teacher and coach. He is a huge Giants fan. He loves to play the harmonica and is not shy about bringing his harmonica out at a heartbeat. Let's see. And not first, but he's an Ironman. He is a marathoner. He is totally involved in fitness, and it's part of his daily routine and his life, and it's a great segue back and forth with his students, and the way he does it, it helps motivate them as well.
Absolutely.
All his Ironman and marathon running and all those things definitely translates, because when we taught together, he wouldn't bring it up, but I would bring it up and mention to him, and then I could get him to talk about it, and running is a big part. And he talked about, his experiences, and the kids could relate to that. And, they probably couldn't relate to all the hours and hours and hours and hard work that he put in, but just that he likes to do it. And that it's a choice, it's fun, it's not punishment, it's not a bad thing, it's a great thing. So and he really encourages kids to get into that as well. Without Jim, the department would certainly be missing someone who is a shining example of taking physical fitness into your personal and daily life. You know, there are others that are involved in that, but none to the degree that Jim is. What Jim means to the Dalton community is a person who's impacted really countless lives of kids. Not only just the kids who are athletes that he coaches and, you know, gets them to work hard, and, you know, the kids who excel at athletics and PE class, but he also connects with the kid who's not necessarily, you know, at least at this point, a big proponent of exercise, and maybe it's not their favorite thing, but he finds a way to get them going, get them involved. I've walked into some of his spin classes that he runs, and kids who were that type of kid that, you know, weren't big into the team sports, they're pumping away on the bike, the music is blaring, and they're going and they're into it, and they're just having a great time. They're all singing along to the music. It's a big party in there. Yeah, Jim is into music quite a bit. He, I don't know if you realize that he wrote 2 books on the Iron Man. And he originally did it as a blog, or at least the start of it. And interspersed with all of his writings were little audio clips of certain things, because he's always listening to music, and certain events or times or races or times of year for him have a song that is right there in his head. So when he is in this situation, that's the song he thinks of. And so he felt so strongly about it, he included those in so that you could kind of get a look into what he's thinking while he's training, which is a big part of his books, you know, having people get ready for the Ironman. The words I use to describe Jim would be Ironman, motion, and family. Ironman for, you know, all the races and things, and that's inclusive of running in general. I know he's run, and I may be under this, but he's run, or it's in Ironman, it's run, swim, and bike, because it's a 100-mile bike ride. It's a run a marathon and swim 2 miles. He's done at least 7. I know he's run a marathon every single year, at least one since 1997. And he's really into it, and as I mentioned, he gets kids going with that and uses that in class to motivate kids and show what's possible. And he's really a perfect example of that. He was not a runner all throughout his life. When he came to us in 1988, he started coaching with me, and we'd be out on Randall's Island for football preseason, and we're out there all day, so we eat lunch out there. So during lunch, I would run at midway through the practice, and I got him to join me, and he really got into it. It snowballed from there. So he's a self-made person. So he lets people know that you don't have to be something that you do your entire life. That just get started small, build, work hard, and keep going. I say motion is one of the words because he moves all the time, but he is one of the best people in our department, I've always felt, about getting kids moving, keeping things simple, getting them moving, letting them discover through movement, getting plenty of exercise, and he's as good as anybody that I've worked with and seen at just getting them going, and the kids respond to that really well. And family, he's a nut when it comes to his family. He's run his daughter, who is a travel team soccer player, driven her all over the tri-state area and further to different things, taking her up to schools and visit because coaches were doing that. He's constantly running down to visit she's not graduated, but his other daughter in college. And one of the things which I really enjoy with Jim, besides the fact that he's a Giants fan, because I'm also a Giants fan, is the Sunday ritual is the entire family on the couch in all their giant paraphernalia with all their little things around the house there watching the Giant game. And they live and die with the Giants, and they revel in victory, and they don't take it easily when they lose, unfortunately. The one thing I would want Jim to feel from the Dalton community is appreciated. People understand his hard work, all the years he's put in, all the lives he's touched, all the kids he's worked with and encouraged, and really just all the hard work that he's done. It doesn't go unnoticed, especially when people know that someone's been around for a long time. It's a pretty smart crew here at the Dalton School, so they get it.
Okay, perfect.
One of my favorite things that I remember, it's about Jim, but it's not with Jim. It's having spoken to one of our former students who was also ended up coaching, and I had asked him, to kind of relate, something that he remembered about Jim. And he says, when we were students, we thought Jim lived at the gym, because they would be, when they got into high school, they would go to, on varsity teams, and a lot of those teams would come early in the morning for practice and stuff. And they'd walk in, they're barely awake. It's a big deal for them. And Jim's already there, dripping in sweat. They can hear him because he's on the treadmill and he's singing at the top of his lungs, not particularly well, not as well as he plays the harmonica, which is pretty good. And so they come in, they see him, they can't imagine that he possibly has come in this early. So the joke was they thought he lived at the gym.